Hey guys, welcome to my channel, and if you haven't been here before, I make all kinds of Albion Online content. Now in today's video, I just wanted to briefly go over the different armors that have just been sort of introduced with the new patch that is going to be coming live in, I think, late November is the general theory, the new expansion for Albion Online. The expansion was actually dropped on the test server just a couple hours ago, so if you do want to check this stuff out for yourself, I would definitely recommend it, as the best way of learning is to read everything for yourself. But I just want to show you guys some of the actual items in game, what they look like, and yeah, talk about some of the sort of combos with weapons, what kind of weapons will work with these armors that I just theory crafted real quick just for this video. So let's get in game here. Alright, so as you see, we do in fact have the 8.4 style weapons. So yeah, you can get these 0.4 materials now. I have not seen, or like I haven't really been out of town, so I don't know if these are, you know, how much rarer these are than 0.3, but I'd imagine quite a bit more rare. But yeah, you can assume even better gathering fame for getting those, and they're going to be worth a whole lot of money. Now, I made everything in my inventory 8.4 and Masterpiece just to see how good the items can be theoretically at their maximum peak value. Now obviously no one is going to be going out in 8.4 Masterpiece and actually doing anything other than hardcore expeditions, but I think that it's just interesting to see you know, all of the possibilities, how strong weapons can be, and I definitely was wondering about some of them, like the crossbow, for example, 8.4 Masterpiece, hitting over 3,000 damage. Pretty insane. So if you don't know, every 100 IP in Albion scales up in items power, like generally by 10%. I think it's like 9.6, is that it? Yeah. And that's multiplicative, so if you're at 1200 and you go to 1300, it's 10% higher. Now if you go to 1400, it's going to be 10% higher than that. So that's where, you know, having an 8.4 is actually 10% more damage than an 8.3, which is obviously an insane amount of, you know, damage from before. All right, so let's get into the actual armors here. As you can see, I got a little array of weapons here to showcase for you guys. So let's just go ahead and start with the cloth set, and that is called the Feyscale Armor. So let's equip everything here. I think it's these ones, yeah. All right, for this set, I'm not really quite sure how viable it's going to be. This does have very interesting abilities. Some of the more interesting abilities of the armors introduced, in my opinion. So for the Feyscale hat, you're going to have hyper focus, and that makes your casts and channel like abilities, spells, you basically can't be interrupted, and you're also have immunity to getting debuffs on you. Now how useful that will be, I don't know. I mean, you could be immune to getting clapped by like a carving sword, for example. You could be immune to that debuff. Pierces, that sort of thing, you'd be immune to. I don't know if you would actually be immune to stuns with the immunity to debuff. I'm not really quite sure, but I'd imagine you'd be immune to slows and that sort of thing. But, you know, that doesn't really combo super well with channeling, you know, casting and channeling. So obviously this ability here works best with something like a, you know, fire staff that's just able to spam their abilities as fast as possible and don't really want to get interrupted. It could be somewhat useful for that, but what I thought about immediately was actually the crossbow, regular crossbow, and even the bowcasters to a certain extent, because now more and more frequently people have been kind of shying away from the one-shot crossbow build with the Scholar Robe, just because it's, you know, after you've done that one shot, you're pretty much dead, right? So if you were to actually use knockback shot and get the extra cast speed from that, from hitting that, and then use your Feyscale hat, you will be just able to do your E no problem. No one will be able to interrupt you, and it will be very effective, in my opinion. Like, obviously you don't need to run 8.4 Masterpiece to do that, but I'd imagine, you know, based on, as long as the prices aren't insane for these items, which they may or may not be, it's really hard to tell at this point. Like in corrupted dungeons, for example, you could see people running Assassin Jacket and a Feyscale hat. So be on the lookout for that. Now, for the Feyscale Robe, its ability is pretty crazy. This is like the longest ability that I've seen in ALBION'S, called Wild Magic. So you're gonna basically have 3 different like effects that you rotate between. So I can go ahead and show you if I dismount here, because this is a little bit complicated. So as you can see, it's going through the different abilities and I have to pick one. So let's say I pick the ice one. Now I have these orbs. And I picked the ice ones because I think that is generally going to be the best ability to have. So a little bit similar to Twisted Fate, and it's like playstyle if you've ever played League of Legends, but that's beyond the point. So the first effect, the Ring of Fire. Now this, I'll just read it for you. Create a ring of fire with a 5-meter radius on the ground around you, lasting 3 seconds. It sets all enemies touching it aflame, dealing 933 magical damage over 3 seconds. Enemies set aflame will flee from you for 0.75 seconds. Mobs flee only once. Now that does actually do a pretty decent amount of damage. So for this first ability, Ring of Fire, I do kind of imagine that it would be actually kind of strong to use something with like Hellion Shoes. So let's say like a dagger pair uses Hellion Shoes on you, puts down Ring of Fire, you would basically get hit by the Ring of Fire at that point. And they'd be able to get their E off on you 100% of the time because you'll be fleeing. And fleeing is a very strong effect in Albion. It's yeah, pretty annoying to deal with. So that's, you know, my general idea with this. Could be like kind of decent for ganking as well. I can just plop it down on a choke point. It's another flee effect, so you could run this as well as a Fiend Robe in your group and get even more fears. If you're going to do something like gate camping, don't do that. But if you're going to do something like that, then it's pretty useful. All right, so the Storm Shield is the second effect. That's the lightning one. Surround yourself with storming winds, increasing your damage resistances by 83 for 5 seconds. Whenever you take damage, shock the attacker. If it is within 12 meters of you, dealing 133 magical damage. Stuns for 1 second. I really, you know, I'm not sure about this one. Like it's, I really don't feel like it's going to be super useful. I could be wrong on that. The 1 second stun is, that's just consistent. So if you're running flat 4 or 8.4, it stuns for 1 second and the damage is really negligible. The damage resistance increases, like the amount of armor and magic resist you get does increase based on your, you know, tier. But the thing is like this would be really good if you're gonna play like a, you know, like I don't even know, like you could kind of play like a bruiser or even a tank maybe and use Storm Shield. But the thing is, a tank would never use cloth armor, so who's gonna use this? I don't know. Yeah, I really don't know. This one, you know, it doesn't scream out to me like that's going to be very useful for anything. But hey, it's a new ability. It's something, I'm sure there are combos that I'm not thinking of. But yeah, generally, I'm not super impressed with that one. So for the third one, this is the one that I think will be used the most, if I'm going to be completely honest, is the Frozen Fragments. So that's the Frost ability. You summon 5 Frozen Fragments surrounding you for the next 6.5 seconds. Whenever you deal direct damage, deal an additional 233 magical damage. Frozen Fragment damage does not count as direct damage, so it doesn't proc off of itself is basically what it's saying. And yeah, decreases max and current health by 3% for 5 seconds. Now that is a very strong effect. Now immediately when I read this ability, the first thing that I thought of is people ganking with the Whispering Bow. Because if you use a Whispering Bow and a Morgana Cape and pop this ability here with the Frozen Fragments, you're gonna dismount anything. Like, I mean, it's gonna be, I mean, stuff will die immediately. Like, it would be very good. Now this does also just increase damage of something like Bowcasters with its E, or even just the Q damage from crossbows in general. Just getting a huge buff from the Frozen Fragments, and that's why I think that it is very strong. Now, reducing someone's max and current health by 3% for 5 seconds. Now, I'm sure that is subject to change because that seems like a freaking ridiculous effect, honestly. If you hit all 5, like if you just use this ability and a bowcaster's Q or crossbow Q, the auto fire one, that is gonna just really do like too much damage to someone, I think. So yeah, I'm imagining that's going to get tuned down a little bit, but we'll have to see. All right, for the Feyscale sandals, after 1 second, you turn into an ethereal form, becoming untargetable, immune to damage and all abilities, and increasing your movement speed by 20%, while channeling for up to 6 seconds. Now this is already super interesting because you're untargetable and immune to damage and all abilities, so nothing can hit you while channeling for up to 6 seconds. Okay, that's crazy. So you're immune to, this is purge immunity for like, first off, I think these will be the most, like potentially the most expensive boots in the game, just based on the how rare the crafting materials are going to be, but we'll have to see about that. So every time you pass through an enemy player in ethereal form, your movement speed increases by 20% for 5 seconds. That stacks up to 4 times. So you can actually get up to 100% movement speed. Crazy. Now it also decreases all damage you deal and the duration of your crowd control effects by 15%. All right. This has a lot to unpack. All right. So it's this is like an incredibly strong boots ability. Now it does happen 1 second after you use it. So you have to kind of think about that. But just the other day, I was ganked by 6 people in a group. No, sorry. You would have thought that I was ganked by 6 people in a group dungeon because that makes sense, but it was a solo dungeon. So imagine I have these boots. I'm out of there. Like, you can hit every single person and just get 100% movement speed and be zooming. So one thing to note is that if you're going to be playing in the Mists, which I'm sure a lot of you are, these aren't going to be super great because now you could hit the same target multiple times, I do believe, but you're going to spend a lot of the 6-second channel time just going, you know, back and forth between someone to try to get more stacks, and that's not going to be great. But at the same time, you know, if you're going to be playing regular roads, you could just zoom through a whole group with these things. And yeah, immune to purges, immune to everything basically. These are super strong, I think. Also like top tier boots for gatherers. These are very strong, very, very strong. Transporters as well. Like I don't know, you know, I can't really recommend these boots enough. Let's just say that it's a very strong ability. Yeah, the complete immunity from everything is going to be very strong. Now, let's move on to the leather armor. Starting off with the Mistwalker Hood here. Its ability is Immortal. Become immortal, making it impossible to drop below 1 health. Consumes 3% of your max energy every 1 second that you are, you know, using this ability. Sort of similar to the Spectre Jacket. Now, the ability can last up to 4 seconds, but can be deactivated early, and it's on a 45-second cooldown. This one is going to require some testing, I think. It's hard to say how useful this is going to be. I mean, nothing really comes to mind as to like what this would be super useful as. One thing that I thought about is if like you would have the potential of for like transporters, gatherers, that sort of thing. I'm not sure if it's going to work like this, but if you can actually kind of use it similar to how people used to use Guardian Helmet. Oh, we're reconnecting. I'll just keep talking. So if you use it similar to how people used to use Guardian Helmet, where you pop the Guardian Helmet and then mount up, that could be a possibility if you're already at 1 health, but you could still be vulnerable to stuns, that sort of thing. If you have like a super strong effect, like a, I don't know, like a Brimstone E maybe, or something like that. Like, I don't really know how useful realistically this ability is going to be. It seems a little gimmicky because, I mean, for the builds that would be using this, I feel like you would want to be playing like a sustain build, right? and then be like having it be impossible for you to drop below 1 health would only really happen once, you know. You can also use this as a healer if you're looking to do healing. Now the problem with that is that the holy healers rely a lot on Royal Cowl or energy, and this obviously takes up the head slot, so that's a little rough for them. For nature healers, they kind of rely a lot on Graveguard Helmet, but I mean this definitely does serve a purpose for them. I mean, it is a 4-second invulnerability. So that's what I think. Cleric Robe is only 2, if I'm not mistaken. Let's see here. Cleric Robe, 3 seconds. You know, it's hard to say. You can obviously still do stuff while you're immortal, so that's really good. Kind of better than Cleric Cowl. At the same time, I don't think you can cast this while, you know, under CC and stuff, so that's kind of why Cleric Cowl is so good at what it does. It's a very interesting ability. I'm sure some people will manage to find a use for it. I'm just not seeing that use immediately right now. All right, for the leather jacket, we have the Mistwalker Jacket, and its ability is Mist Cloud. Turn into a mist cloud with a 7-meter radius, granting immunity to all effects, and allies inside the mist turn invisible. If they attack or use an ability or interacting with objects, will reveal yourself or allies temporarily. This ability can last up to 7 seconds but can be deactivated early. So I'm going to go ahead and actually just show you the effect on this one because it's pretty cool. So here we go. Look at that. I mean, okay, this looks really good. I mean, this really looks really good. So it's definitely interesting, right? It's crazy they're like, you know, printing items with immunity to all effects. Like, that's pretty crazy. Wouldn't have thought about that before. Now, this I think could serve a purpose in small scale as kind of a replacement to something like Great Arcane. So, you know, if someone's going to be diving you, they, you know, Hodge or something, you can use the Mist Cloud, and that might help you. Now, you're not immune to damage, I believe, so it's not really a replacement for Great Arcane. Could be, like, it's not really good for, you know, escaping or anything either, because, like, you know, your enemies can see where the Mist Cloud is. You know, what's the purpose here? It's kind of hard to say. There's like, you know, if there is a Hodge coming into you, you can avoid that Hodge, kind of similar to like a Night Helm, but this hits as many people as it wants. Instead of the Night Helm, it only hits 5, I believe. Or is it 10? Okay, 10 allies. So this doesn't have any stipulation like that. You can hit as many allies as you want with it. That's kind of good. Yeah. You know, for solo players, which is, you know, what I do solo and like very small scale, 2 or 3 people. Mist Cloud, I'm not seeing, you know, the possibilities there. I'm not seeing like, oh, I can't wait to try this with this weapon, that sort of thing. But it's definitely interesting. And again, like, I do think this one has more potential than, honestly, the helmet. I think, like, I do think that this will serve some purposes. We'll just have to see. All right, next up is the Mistwalker Shoes. And this is very interesting, this ability. So, its ability is called After Image. So you dash towards a targeted position, leaving an after image of yourself at the original position for up to 4 seconds. The ability can be recast once within 4 seconds to teleport back to the after image. Moving more than 32 meters away from the after image will set this ability on cooldown. Okay. I'm just going to do something kind of interesting here, I guess, just to show it off. It's very similar to like LeBlanc from League of Legends, her, you know, movement ability. So if we do this and then this and like something like that, and now we can, I messed it up. Okay, I think I just waited too long, but you get the point. Pretty interesting for something like a like super clap weapon, like a Gallopere. I mean, 32 meters is very far. Like, that's a very far distance. Let's see if I can do it here. Alright, so move away, and okay, instant teleport, which is very nice. That was actually very instantaneous, so I like that. And I think that's going to be really the main use for these Mistwalker shoes. Just like super clap weapons, gallop hair, something like the weeping repeater, I guess. I mean, a weeping repeater kind of needs more damage. Yeah, but something that gets in and gets out. Bridled Fury comes to mind as well. Yeah, I think that's probably going to be the highest use case of the Mistwalker shoes. Now, obviously, some people might like make some insane plays with these, or people will definitely make insane plays with these, but you know, it's a shoe ability that doesn't have movement speed on it, so it's kind of hard to, you know, recommend them, hard to see that they're going to be like super duper viable, just because, you know, they don't have rejuvenating sprint, which is super strong. I definitely think that the cloth shoes do come out a little bit higher on top than these leather shoes, but we'll have to see how it plays out. I'm sure some, like especially dagger users, I think are going to use these shoes a lot for making like corrupted dungeon plays and stuff like that. Would be very cool. Like arcane players, frost players, anything that can kind of juke out your opponent with a good dash ability. This would be pretty good. Pretty good ability for that. So anything that has like get in and get out damage, that sort of thing, will be very good with these boots. Alright, next up, final class of armor. It's going to be the plate armor here. So this is called Duskweaver. So, looking at the Duskweaver Helmet, its ability is Spider's Thread. This seems... I am so excited for this ability. I think this is probably one of the most, like, hyped abilities that I've, you know, seen. I think a lot of people really like this one. So, its ability is called Spider's Thread. And so for the first cast, you shoot a thread in the targeted direction. Now that has a 14-meter long distance, and that deals a little bit of damage. I mean, it's not much. You gotta remember this is 8.4 masterpiece, so that really doesn't do that much damage. And enemies who are not mounted will be slowed by 20% for 3 seconds. And that's good because it ignores crowd control resistance, and it's also not affected by the IP, so it should always be 3 seconds. And hitting an enemy who is not mounted also enables the next combo ability. So yeah, these can't be really used to catch people who are, you know, mounted up, but for ganking people who are gathering, for example, invis ganking and stuff like that, this is going to be juicy. This is a good ability. So after you've hit someone with Spider's Thread the first cast, you can use your second cast, which is Hunt Prey. Now that just enables a dash, so it's actually a movement ability on your head slot, so that's super interesting. It also only has a 30-second cooldown, which an effect like that I would honestly kind of assume would have a longer cooldown. So let's go ahead and just shoot out the ability here. Looks like that. Super cool. That's some Spider-Man looking shit right there. Really like this one. I think it has so much potential for solo, duo, you know, trio, very small scale gameplay. Like, oh man, this ability is looking very good. Now I will also say that the range of the second dash is 50 meters, so if someone makes like crazy distance from you, then yeah, like they can't make 50 meters worth of distance from you. That's pretty insane. You can also hit someone and wait, so you can wait up to 3 seconds. So that enables also some interesting play there, so that you could, you know, if they see that you use Spider's Thread and hit them with the first, you know, cast, then they might pop something like a, you know, cleric robe. You can just wait that out and still dash to them. Very good ability. Really looking forward to trying this one out myself. And yeah, you'll be seeing it in some videos, I'm sure. Alright, for the chest slot, we have the Duskweaver Armor. This ability is also very interesting. So you place a web with a 7-meter radius under your feet, lasting 5 seconds. and that can't be interrupted. Slows all enemies within it by 35% and purges all movement speed buffs. Placing a new web on the ground will dissolve all ally webs in a 20-meter radius around you, so it's definitely not meant to be used with a lot of them in place, but you can stack them as long as someone waits 5 seconds. You know, you just place another one and it works out pretty well. So using this ability, it looks like this. Has a short channel time of 1 second, I think, 0.6 seconds. That's okay. So this ability works very similar to Cripple, right, from the spear. That's good. This, like, honestly, combining this with the helmet seems like a pretty good idea. So you get a dash, right? If you see someone is dashing to you, you usually pop your boots so you can create distance. But then you know, you hit him with the spider's thread, you dash to him and immediately use mythical web, and there you go. Pretty good combo. Now it is a plate item, so, and it also doesn't have, it has like 50% you know, CC duration. Doesn't have any damage on it, like some plate armors do have at least 10% damage, but no, not this one. 50% CC duration. So yeah, this is just all armor, and it's gonna serve as a pretty good, like, it's gonna be pretty good in ganking. It's gonna be pretty good in, honestly, ZVZ and small scale. If someone, like, I can see maybe not bruisers, but sort of like an off tank getting in the enemy backline, like right after a clump, and just using Duskweaver Armor to sort of control a choke point and purge a lot of boots off of a lot of people, and enabling a counter clap, right? So that's super useful for that. Obviously, you know, I think most people who are ganking aren't really going to need the Duskweaver Helmet, but for the weapons that have a lot of mobility, this is going to help even more with that. Some weapons that come to mind that would be useful for this is, honestly, if you're going to use something like a curse staff with a root, anything that has a root or stun can be very useful. So if you manage to snare someone or stun someone, you can pretty much assume that they're going to use their boots right after they're snared or stunned. So you can just use your Duskweaver armor and purge it off of them. But again, the problem arises that it is plate, so it's going to have some limited viability for, you know, damage, and solo players in general are probably not going to be using it. But I think it does serve that purpose in ZVZ and small scale for being like a, if you manage to flank your enemy where you know that they're gonna, you know, fall back, and you just purge all of their boots, man. Oof, it could really, you could really make some plays happen with Duskweaver armor. So yeah, I really do like this armor as well. All right, Duskweaver Boots, Crush Charge. So you dash towards the targeted position, and that can't be interrupted. You knock back all enemies you pass through by 34.34 meters, and that is based on IP, so it's not that much. I think it's like 15 meters or something like that at the you know, flat 4 level, and it also deals 400 damage. Obviously that damage is very high. So yeah, knocked back enemies that collide with the environment will be stunned for 5.38 seconds, and that stun also increases with the IP. So if you're running lower tier, then it's not gonna stun for that long, but it's still, I mean, it's a good stun. It's like 2 seconds, 3 seconds on a like decent piece of this gear. So what is this useful for? I don't know. Like, I have no idea. This one is baffling to me. Like, I was kind of thinking that you could use it with the regular crossbow, again, very annoyingly, and mostly in corrupted dungeons. But if you use something like knockback shot and these boots, that would pretty much assure that a you know, melee player is gonna have a incredibly hard time, you know, catching you and dealing with you. Other than that, if there's such a thing as like a disengage tank or something like that, I mean, like, it's only gonna hit one person, right? Or does it hit multiple? We'll have to see when I reconnect here. So, okay, it knocks all enemies you pass through 34.34 meters in the charge direction. So, yeah, like if you're maybe like riding outposts or something, like, and you know, those people just run away, right? You could like have someone just be on these boots and knock everyone away, and then you'll be even safer than if everyone's just using mining boots. Is that good? I don't know. Is it useful? I also don't know. It remains to be seen. I mean, I think in corrupted dungeons and in places that have corridors, like maybe even if you're just doing like group dungeons and you're afraid of getting dove or something, like, yeah, if you hit a bunch of people with this and they all hit the wall and get stunned, it's huge. It's a very good ability. But at the same time, like, the only reason that people use Judicator Boots, its ability is right here, very similar. So this throws all enemies into the air for 0.8 seconds, as well as being a dash. Very similar to this. You know, if you're a tank, you can't engage with this because it's going to knock everyone back. It's very, like, it's very interesting. Like, I'm not sure who's going to be using this, but for disengaging and for, I mean, you could potentially start a, like, if someone hits a Hajj in like a static dungeon or a group dungeon, and then you have someone, you know, run through with a crush charge and hit everyone into a wall, that's very strong. Like, that would be very strong. But then you would have to coordinate that with your team so that everyone doesn't just dump everything on the Hajj clump, which wouldn't happen. Like, I've played with enough people that it's just, that doesn't happen. People, you know, see the Hajj and they dump their stuff. I don't know how easy that would be to get people to stop doing that. It's very interesting. Like, all of these abilities are very interesting. I'm sure smarter people than me can come up with better solutions for how to use all of this stuff. Not me, I'm not so smart. Alright guys, so that was the first look at these new armors that have come into Albion Online. If you'd like to test them out for yourself, go ahead and download the test server again, as I said. And yeah, maybe you can make some better weapon and armor combos than me. Maybe you'll find a use for these items that I didn't think about. But all in all, I would like to thank you guys for watching this video. Really appreciate all the support. If you guys would like to drop a like, please do that, and leave a comment with any suggestions that you guys do have. And also subscribe to my channel if you'd like to stay up to date on this new update. MISTS in general, going to be posting a lot about the different stuff that's in the MISTS, the different content that you can do while this test server is online, just so you guys can be fully prepared when the actual update drops in the live game. Alright guys, well, thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.